Have you ever had one of those days where everything feels perfectly normal, just another day at the office, and then bam! Life throws a curveball so wild you can't believe it's real? Well, buckle up, because today's story is exactly that. It starts with a routine training exercise and ends with a heart-pounding battle against Mother Nature herself. Our story begins on what seemed like a perfectly ordinary day. A skilled pilot, let's call her Jane, was in her helicopter, hovering a few feet off the ground. This wasn't some high-stakes mission, it was just practice. Hovering is a fundamental skill for any helicopter pilot, requiring immense concentration and delicate control. You're essentially balancing on a column of air. Jane was in the zone, her hands and feet making tiny, precise adjustments to keep the aircraft steady. The engine hummed its familiar tune, the rotors sliced through the air. Everything was calm, controlled, and completely routine. But while Jane was focused on her training, something was brewing on the horizon. The sky, once a placid blue, began to take on a sinister, bruised purple hue. The wind, which had been a gentle breeze, started to pick up, whipping dust and leaves into little tornadoes. A storm was rolling in, and it was doing so with terrifying speed. Before the ground crew could even issue a full-blown warning, the first gusts hit the helicopter like a physical blow. The machine, which had been perfectly still moments before, lurched violently to the side. This was no longer a practice session. This was a real-world emergency. The wind howled, and rain began to lash against the cockpit window, blurring Jane's view. The helicopter was being tossed around like a toy. Every instinct Jane had honed over years of flying kicked in. Her calm practice mode instantly switched to survival mode. Her mind raced, calculating wind speed, rotor RPM, and the aircraft's attitude. She knew that landing immediately was the only safe option, but the storm was making even that simple act incredibly dangerous. The ground below was becoming a swirling mess of rain and debris. The wind was unpredictable, pushing the helicopter one way and then yanking it another. A moment of panic could be fatal. A wrong move on the controls could send the aircraft spinning out of control. Jane's hands, which were just moments ago making gentle adjustments, were now fighting a desperate battle against the elements. She had to use all of her strength and skill just to keep the helicopter from being flipped over. It was a raw, primal struggle, one person, one machine, against the full fury of a storm. With grit and determination, Jane focused on one single goal: get this bird on the ground safely. She scanned for a clear spot, her eyes piercing through the sheets of rain. "Lower, lower, lower," she coaxed the machine, fighting the updrafts and downdrafts that threatened to slam her into the earth or fling her back into the sky. It felt like an eternity, but finally, with a jolt that rattled her to her core, the skids touched down. The engine spooled down. The roar of the storm slowly overtook the sound of the rotors, and for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Jane could take a deep, shaky breath. She had been practicing a hover and ended up in a fight for her life. It's a stark reminder that even in the most controlled environments, we must always be prepared for the unexpected. What a story of skill and courage, right? It just goes to show you that a true professional is defined not by how they handle the routine, but by how they react when everything goes wrong. If you enjoyed this incredible story, please give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more amazing tales to share. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.